going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. Today is Friday, February 2nd, and we've now got to sit on the Dan Quinn head coaching news to the Washington Commanders for a day. Everybody should be all bought in at this point. He's the coach. He gonna be the coach. We didn't get the guys that we wanted as our favorite. Maybe this is gonna be best for us in the long run. Maybe the non-sexy, non-sex appeal pick that everyone loves and respects, because everybody from a league standpoint, players, coaches, media, they think it's a phenomenal hire. But anyways, let's rock. More important than the head coach hire, who are we bringing in to be our offensive coordinator, and how are we filling out the rest of Dan Quinn's staff here? I think the biggest thing going for Dan Quinn in comparison to why it didn't work out in Atlanta is that he will not be in charge of personnel here. He will be able to just let his hair down, throw his hat to the back, and coach the Washington Commanders. He can delegate his staff, he can oversee things, he can call his defense, and he can just focus on the X's and O's of winning football games. He does not have to worry about roster control, personnel purposes. Some guys just need to do that. And it should not be forgotten or lost in the mix that Washington was able to secure the most highly sought after executive candidate, Adam Peters, to be our general manager. And boy, is it a refreshing day to see him walking the sidelines of the Senior Bowl. He just looks like a guy. The fit is crispy, the smile. He just looks like he knows what he's doing. But we need to give Adam Peters' vision a chance. We need to give them the benefit of the doubt, something we were never really going to give Daniel Snyder and company, because the process was all fucked up from the start with everything Snyder did. Give Harris and Adam Peters a chance. But let's talk about, what is Dan Quinn going to do to build a formidable staff here in DC? First things first, Quinn didn't have the job for an hour, and we're already hearing that he has his defensive coordinator candidate, and it's a candidate that excites me, Joe Witt Jr. in Dallas. He's their secondary coach and defensive passing game coordinator. You know what excites me? Because as soon as the Dan Quinn news came out, every Dallas fan and content creator I know, we got to hire Joe Witt Jr. immediately. That's our guy. He's the guy that needs to take over for Dan Quinn. And then all of a sudden we hear Washington is expected to bring Joe Witt Jr. over as defensive coordinator in DC, a guy that came over from Atlanta with Dan Quinn. So he plans to follow him elsewhere. Another name linked to DC, Al Harris, the secondary coach, former defensive back, former like that defensive back in this league. Al Harris recently did an interview where he was talking about Dan Quinn, and he was like, I'll go to war with Dan. Wherever Dan goes, I'll go with him. I'll take him at his word. I'll send him an offer. Come over here. Elevate him from what he does in Dallas. Give him more of a say for the morale and for the details of the secondary position. And we need some dogs in that coaching staff, and he looks like a dog. Dan Quinn's staff in Atlanta was fire. There was 5 head coaches as assistants there. Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, Raheem Morris, and Dan Quinn. That's 5 head coaches on one staff, and he was not afraid to have a staff full of youngins. Young, innovative, I need a chance offensive minds. So the most important hire coming up, the most important decision coming up until free agency in the draft, is the quarterback coach and the coordinator, because Washington is expected to draft a quarterback at the 2nd overall pick of the NFL draft. Developing said quarterback will be 90% of the cause of this regime to succeed or it to fail. So that hiring is not to be taken slightly. And Dan Quinn could play the hits. He could play the hits. He can do what worked for him. What worked for him in Atlanta, Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan worked for him. Go back to the Kyle Shanahan tree. Wherever you find a Shanahan, you can find a Kubiak somewhere nearby. It appears Clint Kubiak is off the table for Washington. as the passing game coordinator for the 49ers is expected in the process of taking the Saints offensive coordinator job in New Orleans. There's another Kubiak over there as well. There's 3 Kubiaks that work for the league. Gary got 3 sons. All names start with a K. We got Clint, Clay, and Klein. Klein is a scout for Dallas. Fuck it, bring him too. Clay Kubiak is the assistant quarterback coach over there. Come be our quarterback coach. Let's go get Brian Fleury or Brian Greasy from the San Francisco 49. Just poach offensive talent from Kyle Shanahan's tree. That's the way to go. That's how Mike McDaniels got a job. That's how Bobby Slowick got the job where he left with D'Amico when they departed San Francisco together last year. I'm not trying to draw any parallels, but Houston was the number 2 overall pick in the draft and took a quarterback, had a rookie defensive head coach and a offensive coach poached from the ranks of Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I'm not trying to draw the parallel, but you see the vision. It's right there for Washington for the taking. Brian Greasy, Brian Fleury, Clay Kubiak. All under that San Francisco umbrella. I trust every offensive disciple of the Shanahan Kubiak coaching tree. Give me one of those young guys over there and let's cook. That doesn't work out. You've seen the rumors. You've seen the name. And I know the name gives you fans immediate PTSD because it didn't work out for him as a head coach. But Chip Kelly, head coach, UCLA Bruins. We saw him with his time in Philadelphia and the 49ers in the NFL. It started great until it didn't, but it was innovative. And Chip Kelly's always been a cutting-edge, innovative sports science guru. Like his offense changed the way the NFL was doing things. He introduced RPO and the zone read on that level at an NFL level. And he took the league by storm. But what was his ultimate downfall was Chip Kelly was given too much control over personnel, roster control, and he absolutely fucked the Philadelphia Eagles roster on the way out, and that didn't work. But from an X's and O's standpoint, Chip Kelly is definitely a candidate we're going to look out for. Cliff Kingsbury would have also been a fit, but he took the Raiders job. See, the bad part and the downside of Washington waiting till February to hire their coach was so many qualified offensive coordinator candidates are already off the board. But Chip Kelly, I know a lot of people are going to say, why would he leave a head coaching college job to come be an offensive coordinator? Because apparently there is some type of exodus of college coaches who are trying to bolt from the NCAA to the NFL because the NIL and the inner workings of the transfer portal are spanking their ass right now, and they don't have time for it. I was recently watching a Chip Kelly interview on the Pat McAfee show. Chip Kelly you could tell he trying to leave. He was like, he was talking about college football teams need to be independent from all other NCAA sports, and we need to band together, and we need to talk to the commissioners, and he already sounds like he's out. He's speaking mutiny over there in UCLA, but Chip Kelly's major issues resonating with players and being given roster control. He wouldn't have to do any of those. All he would have to be here is quarterback developer and X's and O's offensive wizard. Divulge a plan and execute it. Stick with it. How are you going to get the best out of Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or dare I say Caleb Williams? What is the plan? And the major green flag on Chip Kelly is we ain't got to worry about nobody poaching Chip Kelly to be no head coach. Maybe a college team will come calling, but I think if Chip Kelly's the offensive coordinator, that nigga ain't going nowhere. He's going to be here for the long run. He's going to be here for as long as Dan Quinn's here. And now that Dan Quinn is my coach, we need to all back this guy, and we need to all let the plan play out. Let's see how it goes because the guy can coach. The Atlanta Falcons were the couple years where they were good there, they were really good. They should have went to back-to-back Super Bowls because they were at the 1 yard line in the divisional round versus Nick Foles and company and didn't end up scoring. But they would have dogged the Vikings the next week, and it would have been Falcons-Patriots in back-to-back years. But I'm very interested how this staff plays out. You know, a hire I would love to see on Dan Quinn's staff someone Dan Quinn knows very well, someone Adam Peters knows very well, and someone our Washington Commanders faithful knows very well. One of the hosts and alumni of the Command Center for Washington, Logan Paulsen, former tight end, Washington Commanders. He played for Dan Quinn in Atlanta. He worked for Adam Peters. He knows both of these guys. Boy, parlay them relationships and get the tight ends coach job. Get an offensive quality control coach job. I was listening to him speak about Dan Quinn on Grant and Danny yesterday. He brought up so many great points about this guy. Dan Quinn is the positive side of players coach, because some coaches take players coach too far and they want to feel like peers or friends of the players, a la Jay Gruden. There's a thin line. You have to be able to play both sides of player coach, and apparently Dan Quinn does it. Dan Quinn has a personality. He'll turn up on the sideline. He's not so stoic, and it's not this stoic, monotonous demeanor every week that we saw with Ron Rivera, arms crossed, emotionless, and clueless on the sideline. Dan Quinn, while he was the head coach and as the DC of Dallas, you can, even from the booth, you can see him turning up, emotional. He does things with the player. They were speaking of little things like there's basketball courts around Atlanta's facilities where they would do free throw shooting contests. He's always about camaraderie and bringing players together. They say he's a big boxing fan. He hosts boxing fight nights with players. He talks about, he brings a lot of stories and a lot of the rah-rah nature from his favorite boxing matches and boxers of all time. He just has a way to resonate with guys, and guys are ready to run through a wall for him. The players that co-sign him range far and wide. I know we've seen Chris Chester and Tyler Columbus vouch for him, but players, media, and executives league-wide highly tout Dan Quinn, and they love the guy. So fuck it. Bring me that hat to the back energy. Bring me some emotion, and bring me a team that's going to be fast and physical. A team of dogs. Give me some dogs on this roster. Give me some dogs on this coaching staff. So for offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, Brian Greasy, Brian Fleury from San Francisco if Clint Kubiak is off the table. For defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. is expected to get the job. Somehow get Al Harris in the mix as well. Bring me guys that you know. Give me a young, hungry staff. I forgot who made this point yesterday, but someone on X was like, Dan Quinn is going to bring in a staff full of guys looking for promotions, guys that are hungry, guys that are on the upward track of their career, in comparison to Ron Rivera, who brought in a bunch of golf buddies and a bunch of guys who had recently got fired. There's difference. There's a level to it. And while a lot of the things can be similar between Ron and Dan Quinn, I definitely can see the X's and O's and personality differences between the two. And now that he's my head coach, I want him to succeed. I'm not going to sit here and wish for Dan Quinn to fail because he was not my favorite choice. He's here now, and I believe with the 20-plus years he's put in this league, he has the connections, the pool, and the capabilities to put together a fire-ass staff here. But it is very, very paramount that he hits on this offensive coordinator position. And I think Dan Quinn, of all people, knows how important it is, because when Kyle Shanahan was brought into Atlanta for him as his OC, they took off. Matt Ryan was the MVP of the league. Julio Jones was the most unstoppable force on the outside, and they had a chance to win a Lombardi, something Washington hasn't sniffed for quite some time. So let's not turn up our nose at Dan Quinn's ability to assemble a staff here in D.C., because the last one he assembled had 4 head coaches on that motherfucker. Let's build DQ. I'm not talking about Dairy Queen. I'm talking about Dan Quinn. Let's build DQ. Let's get a staff in here. He's already out at the Shrine Bowl. He's about to be out there at Mobile. He's already working. I'm ready to see the intro presser, and I'm ready to see these boys get to work. Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, let's get it. Offseason 2024 has now begun. Let's get this staff underway, and let's get us a quarterback. Ron Rivera voice. That's all I got for right now. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're about 88 subscribers away from the next milestone of 10,000 subscribers on the channel. I thank y'all all for rocking with your boy. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Rio out.